Do you think you can recover from this? You might be able to survive, but can you recover?
Well,
your polling is terrible. The public think you should go. Your MPs are in revolt. 6 of them have publicly said you should resign.
The Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, has come under a lot of pressure lately to resign after he was found attending a party at the peak of lockdown with approximately 40 other people. Now, this isn't a video about whether he should resign or not resign. It isn't a video about the politics of it. But it is a video about communications and the lessons that we can learn from an interview he did about this matter with ITV News. Now, most of us aren't going to be in a situation where an entire country is putting pressure on us to resign from our jobs. But if we are aware of the rights and the wrongs from a communication standpoint, it'll hopefully make us just a little bit better at dealing with high pressure situations and crisis. Let's get into it. Now, I'm linking the entire interview in the description. You can check that out later. I myself have seen the clip multiple times, and we're going to keep cutting from the clip and analyzing and breaking it down. The interview begins with Johnson being asked about whether or not he lied to the parliament of his knowledge of this party and whether or not it was outside of COVID restrictions. He starts off by first conveying his deepest apologies because of what happened and that he did not know that this event was outside of the restrictions or was breaking any rules, and he assumed it to be a work event, not a party. But watch what happens right after he makes the statement.
Just to be clear then, you're saying that Dominic Cummings is lying and his version of events is not true?
I just repeat, I'm deeply sorry for mistakes that were made.
Are you saying that he's lying?
Johnson does something over here known as revocation, which means being evasive. When you're asked a question and you more or less dodge it and don't answer it directly, it's called revocating. And this is one of the most obvious things that help us know that a person is hiding something. He does this again when the interviewer asks him her next question.
Dominic Lawson wrote in the Sunday Times that as well, you had been told by 2 officials it was a party and should be cancelled. You were dismissive. He writes, you said they were overreacting, said Martin Reynolds was your loyal Labrador. Is that also untrue?
Well, I've told you, and I repeat, I'm deeply sorry for misjudgments that were made.
And again, when he's asked whether he will be able to recover from this entire incident.
Do you think you can recover from this? You might be able to survive, but can you recover?
Beth, I understand people's feelings, and I understand why people feel as strongly as they do about this issue. I repeat my apologies for what happened, and I'm heartily sorry for misjudgments that were made.
Now, after the first prevarication, he starts doing something odd, something known as categorizing. When he's asked a question on whether he knew that this event was not a work event and it was outside of the COVID restrictions, watch how he responds to it.
I can tell you categorically that nobody told me and nobody said that this was something that was against the rules.
The word categorically, meaning that he literally wasn't told these exact words. And while this can be technically termed as not lying, it leaves out the larger context. And to most people, it's very easy to notice that he is hiding something. And he repeatedly uses the word categorically in the same context.
Absolutely categorical. Nobody said to me, this is an event that is against the rules.
I can
categorically tell you that I never saw I've seen the email. Nobody warned me that it was against the rules. I'm absolutely categorical about that because I would remember that.
Another way to spot if somebody's lying or dodging questions is when they do something known as redundant repetition. Watch how he responds when he's asked whether or not he would resign if all these implications came out to be true.
So if Sue Gray uncovers a different version of events and it emerges you did mislead Parliament, will you resign?
We'll have to see what she says.
We would have to see what she says. And throughout the remainder of the interview, when he was asked about the possibility of him resigning, Johnson would always respond with this.
Well, let's see what the report says. I think we need to see what the report says. And what I'm saying to you with the deepest respect, Beth, is that we've got to wait for the outcome of the report. But I think what people need to do is wait and see what the report says. What I do need to do is wait for the conclusion of the inquiry.
Johnson kept dodging the question and repeatedly stated that we should wait for the reports before he says anything on this. When you keep repeating things again and again, it becomes another sign that you're trying to conceal something. Repetition, especially if it's not answering questions directly, falls heavily under the space of mistrust in communications. So, what can we learn from all this? In crisis communication, trust is currency. And the more we use these things like revocation, categorizing, or redundantly repeating things, we keep losing that currency. Instead, we just end up making one thing very obvious, that we're concealing something, that we're concealing the truth. And in crisis communication, that is the worst strategy to have. And this was the biggest problem with this interview that Boris Johnson had with ITV News. So what do you think about this? Do you agree with Johnson's interview, not from a political standpoint, but from a communication standpoint? Or could he have handled it better? As always, if you have any more questions around things like public speaking or communications, we have an entire website with in-depth articles and resources dedicated just for that. So go check out franticallyspeaking.com.